welcome to another episode of the What's the Point podcast, a unique show about men and their mental health. There are no doctors, no professionals, just real men talking about real stuff. And now, the What's the Point podcast, where you are the point.
Welcome back to another brand new edition of What's the Point podcast, where you, our listeners, are the point. You are the reason we actually do this. Well, we do it because we like to have fun, but you are the real reason. This episode is brought to you by Dr. Pepper, actually more specifically Diet Dr. Pepper, is a proud sponsor. If they are listening, don't sue us, because it was kind of made up.
But send the check.
Well, that would be nice. And by the way, so a little piece of trivia. Do you realize that you've all heard of Coca-Cola and you've heard of Pepsi and they have their own bottling and distributing? Do you realize that Dr. Pepper is made and distributed by both?
Both.
Pepsi and Coke.
I knew it was one of them, but
They are a whole separate entity, and they sell the mixture and the recipes and the licensings to the different distributors around the country, depending on their area and region of the country. You can tell by the different bottles. If you see this bottle here, this is shaped just like a Pepsi bottle. If you go into a gas station somewhere and the bottle looks different and there's little nodules down here in the labels, a different place, that means it was made and distributed by Coca-Cola.
Andy, could you do me a favor and Google that?
I'm just going to Google, is Bill wrong? Let's see what it says.
Wow. Well, that'll take us through the rest of the show.
Okay. Wow.
So, yes, just a little piece of trivia.
There's today's fun fact.
And you guys could use that as what I've learned today if you want later on.
Google confirms both PepsiCo and Coca-Cola bottlers.
See? You guys doubt me. I mean, granted, a lot of
doubt Bill when it comes to Dr. Pepper.
A lot
Bill
of what I
knows
say is
everything.
not true, but this one was.
Mm-hmm. It's also the same company that makes Keurig. It's called Keurig Dr. Pepper.
See?
So
that's why this tastes like coffee.
We're just going to start Googling Bill.
I'm just a fountain of information. Anyway, my name is Bill Dacus, and I am one of the co-hosts of What's the Point podcast, and I'm here with Mr. Mark Meyer as well.
Good to be here. Excited to have Shawn in the studio, and I'm putting away that knowledge about bottles and Pepsi and Dr. Pepper and men's mental health. I love it.
Every time you guys go into a gas station now, you're going to look at the bottle and see what shape it is. You're welcome.
Thanks, Bill.
The theme of today's show is don't bottle up your feelings.
Ooh, I like it.
With that little bit of wisdom, we've got Andy Bernard with us today.
Hello, I got no sleep last night again.
Oh, boy.
But what else is new?
Oh, boy. Look for Andy to have an attitude. Speaking of attitude, what about you, Mr. Wick? How are you doing today?
I always had a good attitude.
Yeah, always a good attitude?
So good to be here.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
Great to see everybody.
Yes. We have a special guest today that's sitting in with us. His name is Shawn Luke. We've known him for a number of years now. We're really excited to have Shawn spend time with us today and share stuff about his journey. Shawn, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks for having me on. And I never doubted you for a moment, in particular when it comes to Diet Dr. Pepper. Yeah. That's your lane.
We all have interesting things. So in this part, we always talk about this is our Google Minute. Andy, do you have anything for us?
I believe I do.
Okay.
So let's see. We were going to discuss what we wanted to be buried in.
Sure. Okay.
And it was triggered by the Pringles burial.
Okay.
So the chemist who invented the Pringles can, so I'm assuming you all know what a Pringles can looks like.
Right next to the Dr. Pepper at the gas stations.
Yes, exactly. Probably not bottled by Coke or Pepsi, okay. But he was actually cremated and buried in a Pringles can. So I don't know how I would feel about that. I don't eat that many Pringles, but
I don't think that would hold up real well. I don't know about that. I don't know what would you guys like to be buried? What would your ashes be put in? What would you think? I mean, obviously, keeping in thing, I would say Diet Dr. Pepper bottle for me.
I think I'd like to go out in the front pocket of one of Mark Wick's pair of pants.
Wow.
Just so we were always close, buddy. That way we can spend eternity together, and when your spirit needs a little something, you can just reach in your pocket, and there I'll be, just waiting. Do you have any idea how lucky you'd be to spend eternity with me at your side?
That took an awkward turn there.
Okay, well.
For me...
You asked. Don't ask. Don't ask.
For me, I think with the Pringles guy, I mean, that was his legacy. That was what he created, right? So everybody knows that. For me...
So predictable, though. Big deal. You sold Pringles.
I'm sorry. What have you done with your life?
Move on.
I think I actually, and this was actually a little more serious. I think I'd like to have a time capsule made of me, of some things that are part of me in my life, and then they'll just be like a pile of ashes.
Those used to be so big. I don't know what happened to them. You don't hear about them anymore.
They're buried, and we just
That's true. We forgot about them.
Forgot
I guess.
about 'em.
Yeah, but like every town had like in 50 years we're gonna dig up this time capsule. But I don't know when the last one was even like announced, buried.
And a lot of them, the ones I've seen videos of and stuff, they're so excited. They pry this thing open thinking there's going to be the great secret to life in there. And it's, oh, wow, what is this? This looks like a stick.
Yeah, that's the thing is 50 years, it's a long time, but it's also kind of not that long in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
So my cell phone would be in there, my ashes, maybe a Diet Dr. Pepper bottle.
What about you, Wick? I got space in my front pocket here if you need it. We only have so much time.
Yeah.
Where do you want your ashes, buddy?
You know what? That's a great question. I know where I don't want them.
My back
I
pocket?
want them. Wow. I don't want them sitting in a canister on my kids' fireplaces.
Yeah. Anytime I see that, that's always kind of weird.
I've haunted them enough, you know.
You always
my
wonder,
wife.
it's like, at what point do they get rid of it?
Yeah.
Because, you know, your kids probably aren't going to get rid of it. Are your grandkids? Could you blame them? Could you blame your great-grandkids? I don't know.
It would just get lost
I
in a
don't.
move.
I don't think we could blame Wick's wife if she got rid of them. I'm just saying.
Oh no, she would.
Yeah.
Like maybe sprinkle them on like a national championship trophy, since I've never been around one of those.
Wow. The people that have it would probably not care for that. How about just like, we can mix you into like some ice? Like the ice at like XL Energy or something for hockey?
Yeah, mix it in.
Yep. You could be a red line. Or a blue line.
You can get Zamboni'd.
You can, yeah. Oh, wouldn't that be fun? There you are laying and just.
Isn't it time for a break?
Are you going to ask Shawn this question? Because I'm curious where he wants to be buried.
I'm not sure if he's ready for this. I'm not sure if he's ready for this kind of conversation.
I'll be interested to see if he comes back for the next segment.
Shawn, hey, come back.
Speaking of that, let's take a quick break, and we're gonna come back. We're gonna be serious, be professional, decorum. Shawn, you can expect that from us.
Oh, absolutely.
You're not gonna get it, but you should expect it. So
Actually, quick before our break, I would like to give a shout out. We got a text actually from a listener of the What's the Point podcast.
Wow. Not Mark Wick.
Not, well, that and also
Linda W.
Sean Burgeth. We had on episode number 35. I guess you had on episode number 35. I think, which was the last one before
the break.
Before the break, right? His wife texted in and said, "Hey, my husband was on your show," and I said, "I'll give you guys a shout out."
And his wife, Camara,
Yes.
listens to your family podcast every single day.
Every single day.
She loves you guys. Yep.
I don't know why you do something like that.
That's how. Yesterday, in fact, I got a text late in the day from Shawn saying, "Hey, my wife Camara said Bill was on your podcast. She listens every day."
Huh.
Hello, Camara.
We have a listener. That's awesome.
Yeah, at least one.
That's what's the point. The point is that Camara is listening.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's why we do this. We will be back right after this and hear more about Shawn's story.
At Brand Inc., we know your business's reputation rides on every detail, especially when it's on the road. Our commercial vehicle wraps combine eye-catching design, 3M-backed installation, and a seamless process built for busy teams. Whether it's one truck or an entire fleet, we help you turn heads, build trust, and grow your business. Your vehicles are always moving. Make sure your brand moves with them. Start your project at brandinc.com. That's Inc with a K, brandinc.com.
You're listening to the What's the Point podcast, where you are the point. And now your hosts, Mark Meyer, Bill Deckus, and Mark Wick.
So good to be back and so good to be in studio. Thanks for not leaving. We appreciate that.
Still thinking about where I put my ashes.
Where you want to put your ashes. Well, I've got extra pockets, so just in case you need a place.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate
There's
it.
always an option. So I am really glad you're here, and I appreciate your willingness to come and share your story with us and the many, many people who are here to listen. I've had the good fortune of knowing Shawn for a number of years, and I can recall the very first day Bill and I met you in our office and some of the challenges you had brought forth. And the point of this podcast is for guys to share. So I'm going to just start right off with what brought you into Face It? What was, before you got any help from Face It, what were the things you were dealing with, Shawn? What were your challenges?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I remember seeing you guys that first day, and that was a big moment for me. I was super nervous, just to be honest, very uncomfortable coming in. One of the things that gave me a lot of hope in knowing that I was comfortable and interested in walking through the doors in the first place was hearing the podcast. So you four gentlemen here in studio today really appreciate the fact that you guys have put together this legacy. I'm glad to be part of it. And previously, I had just heard guys talk, a lot of sports and weather, just kind of superficial type stuff. But from hearing this podcast, it gave me the sense that you guys really cared and that you were going to a much deeper level with your conversations. So that was the one thing that walking through the doors to Face It that first day that gave me a ton of hope.
So it normalized this experience you were having, because I'm going to guess you felt alone. You felt like nobody would understand. You felt like you were the only one who could possibly act like this. And, of course, all those guys over the years talking about the sports and weather, they had the same issues. But it made you feel heard, right?
Yeah.
Or seen.
Yeah, and I felt like it was a way to build a community. I was really lacking in community. So I think all the way back into childhood, I kind of have an identity built on struggle. I didn't really have an easy time making relationships and friendships, letting people in all together. Similar stuff that you've heard all the way along, but I also have my own mixture of medical health issues. I have my own issues of learning and reading disabilities and trying to find my way through the kind of mainstream academic programs and stuff like that. And the way that I've gotten through it is just pushing really hard.
And that works sometimes, and then sometimes what happens when all you do is push?
Yeah, it's a coping strategy, and that coping strategy can work for a period of time, and then at some point, like, that coping mechanism isn't helping you anymore. And I think I'd put joy to the side so far and community way to the side. I was coming in at a time just over 3 years ago where, we were still on the tail of like COVID lockdown and isolation. And I had been trying to raise two very young girls at that time. I think both of my girls were below 5 at that point. It was a really tough period for me, and a dark period too, because I was just trying to solve everything myself. And I was so focused on fixing everyone else or being there and trying to provide for everyone else, and somehow magically not thinking about myself or that I had needs or ways to kind of balance myself out so I showed up in a healthy, positive way for my family and friends.
How old are you, Shawn?
I'm 43.
43. So prior to a few years ago, had you ever known you had needs? Had you ever taken care of yourself? I'm just curious.
No, it's a long-running thing. I'll get asked questions from time to time, and I still struggle with, hey, where would you like to go? If you could go anywhere in the world, where would you like to go?
Where would you like to be buried? You still haven't answered that question.
I'm much better when people...
even when you're dead, you have needs. Yeah. Sorry, Shawn.
Where would my boss like me to go? Where would my kids like to go? I've got these things down really well. And I guess that's part of my journey too, is like I've got a bit of a story arc here, and I've changed greatly since I've known you guys in the past few years. And at the same time, I still got a long ways to go. There's a lot of things to still sort out and kind of make heads and tails of.
So you talked about being isolated. You talked about not understanding your own needs. How was this playing out? How was it playing out in your life? What were the thoughts? What were the feelings? What were the experiences? What were the behaviors? What did this look like?
Yeah, I was in a super dark place. I have the propensity of being able to show up on a job, really be a great performer. But again, I didn't know how to say no to anybody, and I didn't know when to say, enough is enough either. So I would just constantly bury myself in the work, and I think that's one of the ways that I've just dealt with anxiety and depression. Quite honestly, it's a strange coping mechanism.
To
just keep doing it. Just keep working. What? I'm nervous. I got a lot of stuff. Let's just put that on a list and just keep crossing things off the list. Let's burn even harder in hopes that somehow I'm going to, make things better or give myself some capacity to relax.
You talked about your daughter. How did all this affect your family, your wife, your daughter, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it really complicated things. I mean, the intentions were good. If I go back to that time frame, I can see that my intentions were to be there and to show up for my kids, my family, always be there every night, be on, always be at work, always be given 100% in all the areas. And the reality was I was giving everybody a subpar experience, quite honestly, because I was just burning, and I wasn't very attuned to like what was going on with me, and I wasn't all that honest with where I was falling short.
You mentioned earlier too, you had some serious health issues.
Yeah.
How hard was that to get through? Trying to be a better person, but yet still having to deal with these real life situations that really impacted you.
Yeah. Even a few years ago, I was still going in. So I found out probably, it's been 12-ish years. I found out that I had esophageal tumors. I got into a regimen where I needed to go in every 6 months. They would check for more tumor growth, pull out biopsies, burn out other tissue when they needed to. And unfortunately, I've had my own unique mix of stuff. Like my metabolism is super high. So there was a point, probably about 10, 12 years ago, where at 5'11", I dropped down to 120 pounds, and I was kind of staring death in the face. And I really was having struggles with like communication and getting through. So I brought that baggage even up to a few years ago. I still had that, but I was trying to raise my kids, and going in for regular procedures is really tough mentally. Just the thought of that vulnerability of being incapacitated, going in for procedures, being down for a day or two as the anesthesia wore off, stuff like that.
Because if you're not doing, if you're not producing, if you're not being a dad, if you're not performing at work, then who are you? What are you?
Exactly. I built my whole life around this idea that my value is only as much as my most recent accomplishment.
Yeah.
So if you got these health issues, if you got these 2 young daughters, which means you're not sleeping, right? You're working all this, and you're in this dark place. Instead of saying, how did you find Face It, how did you find What's the Point podcast?
Yeah, I was looking for hope. I was looking for guidance. One thing that I noticed is that I was in a neighborhood. There were a lot of other young adults kind of raising kids and stuff, and I could see the women in the neighborhood really band together. They'd go on daily walks. They would have special book clubs. They would go on yoga retreats, so on and so forth. And I was in a place where I had friends, but friends from earlier in life, and friends that were spread out over the metro, and friends that were raising their own kids. I felt super isolated. And I think the COVID lockdown and all that just exacerbated all that stuff. So I was looking for resources, and I talked to my therapist. I told this story to other people. I knew it was a problem, that I was really lacking the community and, other men to spend time with. And I was luckily pointed into the direction of Face It, and I found out that the podcast was there from the website.
Okay, so you were already seeing a therapist at the time. So what caused you to go in to start that journey with a therapist?
Oh, I mean, in hindsight, there's probably things that make more sense. I knew that I was struggling. I knew that things mentally weren't good. I didn't realize how much like the anger and other issues like that were conflated and kind of symptoms of the underlying diagnosis. Yeah.
I've heard that from other people.
What were you angry about?
What was I angry about? I think a lot of it kind of goes back to those core beliefs that like I struggle. I have to work harder than everybody else. And also just not feeling fulfilled. For some reason, I had this idea in my brain that it all came down to grinding. Like, if I could just all figure this out and work harder, that then people will love me, people will take care of me, people will want to be my friend. And that was clearly not how things were working out for me.
So beyond being angry, were you sad? Were you lonely? Were you other things that you couldn't put your finger on, but you could call it anger?
Yeah, it took a long time to see that and to layer and figure that out. And I think that's a large reason why I didn't see the correlation between the two. It's just like, no, I'm a man. This is what men do. Men work super hard and they don't talk about their feelings.
Right.
And then
men get angry.
Yeah, get angry.
Even though we're sad, we're lonely, we're all these different things, but we identify everything as anger. And
we know anger a lot better. We know when you're angry, what do? You lash out. We
right.
know that.
You take action. You do something.
When you feel disrespected, or you feel, well, like what? Okay, what do I do for that? When I feel lonely, what do I do for that? I don't know, but I know what to do when I'm angry.
So you were a doer. You were a doer. You were a fixer. You were just make it happen, and then everything will be just fine.
Yeah, I tried to figure it out. I tried to get all the degrees, and I tried to get all the certifications, and I thought at some point, like, it's just going to make sense.
And you said this is a dark time. What does that mean? Were you suicidal?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Were you wondering why bother? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I was losing hope altogether. And I kind of think about it as being in a tunnel sometimes. It's like sometimes you're in a tunnel and you can see that light at the end and you know where you're heading. But like that hopelessness really kicks in for me when I'm not sure that there's light at the end of the tunnel anymore. So I felt really isolated. I kind of grew up in a very isolated fashion. I think a lot of my core beliefs were kind of stacked up as like, this is the way things are. But it got even more and more, and the walls started coming in on me. And as I tried to do more and more to fix it, because that was kind of my way of fixing problems,
right.
It was just a spiral.
And when we only have one coping skill, that coping skill can't possibly meet every need, right?
Right. I was very over-indexed on just thinking that by doing, I could fix it all.
Absolutely. So that sense of hopelessness, what did you cling to? What'd you do? What'd you do? Like, I know there are people listening right now who feel hopeless. They see no light at the end of the tunnel. They sense that things can never change. And what did you I don't want to get too far down the road of, what your recovery journey's been, but you found a podcast. How'd you manage? I think it's an important topic.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I realized, again, is like getting out of that myopic mindset of just thinking that one thing can solve it all. And just like I had been with a therapist previously, I had been trying to do exercise, I've been trying to find different ways to balance, but I wasn't very effective at it. So I think one of the most important things is finding a series of different things, and community was one of those biggest pieces for me. Mm-hmm. So I needed to continue with the therapist. I was on meds already, continue taking the meds, continue working on exercising. But yeah, there's a lot of factors that come together to kind of lift oneself up. I think one of the biggest things is, taking that accountability, because as I got into a group, and I joined one of Bill's groups to start, and I got to see from other people and hear their stories, and it was also on me to be accountable to share my stories in detail, that good, the bad, the ugly, all the portions of that. So actually, during the time that I was at Face It, like, it's not necessarily the road to recovery, because I ended up moving between jobs. I ended up being out on medical leave and on bed rest for, 8 months, something in that order. I ended up going through a divorce. It wasn't all parades. It wasn't all happy, and everything didn't magically just solve itself.
And interestingly enough, and we'll get into this, and I want to just before we go to break, I mean, I just want to thank you for sharing all this, because it's really hard to be vulnerable, and it's hard to admit to people that you feel hopeless and you weren't showing up the way you want, and you know, you perceive or you think you let people down and you let your kids down, etc. But it is interesting, and I'm sure Mark will touch on this when we come back from break, how those things you just identified, being in the hospital, divorce, as hard as they are, when you don't have hopelessness, you can still manage things differently. So when we get back, when we come back from break, we'll hear about what Shawn has done to be the smiling guy he is today. We'll be right back.
At Brand Inc., we know your business's reputation rides on every detail, especially when it's on the road. Our commercial vehicle wraps combine eye-catching design, 3M-backed installation, and a seamless process built for busy teams. Whether it's one truck or an entire fleet, we help you turn heads, build trust, and grow your business. Your vehicles are always moving. Make sure your brand moves with them. Start your project at brandinc.com. That's Inc with a K, brandinc.com.
You're listening to the What's the Point podcast, where you are the point. And now your hosts, Mark Meyer, Bill Deckus, and Mark Wick.
Well, welcome back to What's the Point podcast. And again, Shawn, thanks for sharing all that. And, you know, one of the first things that, you know, I want to touch on is, and I'm glad you brought it up, those dark times, the one thing that I hope that we can bring other people is hope. Because that is the one thing that doesn't feel like it, but if you learn from the guys that come on here, other guys, that there is hope out there, even though it doesn't feel that way all the time. And, you know, I want to thank you because you spoke at breakfast. Remember when that was?
Yeah.
I lose track of time, how long ago it was?
Maybe 9 months, a year, something like that.
Okay. And you said at that breakfast that this podcast was one of the things that led you to face it and all that. And, you know, for me, that meant a lot from the standpoint of we don't know what seeds we plant, but that this is having an impact. And one of the reasons we're back is because of you.
That's too kind, but
well,
I'll take it.
Because, you know, you said...
Wait a minute. He's the reason I'm here at noon on a Friday?
Actually, it may be the only reason we're back.
Wow.
Right. Because, you know, I'm like...
My front pockets are now off limits, so go ahead.
So, again, thank you, Shawn.
Mr. Wick, so kind.
But it was that push, and, you know, hey, in full transparency, putting a podcast on is a ton of work, not by me. And Bill did it all the first time with the, you know, getting this stuff up and editing and getting it out online and all that type of stuff. And now Andy's doing that. You know, we have the easy part of just showing up here. But it is important. And because of that push and then seeing you at the next one, get in touch, that, you know, it's finally up and back. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
What types of things have taken place in your journey? Because it just doesn't happen by itself because I'm sick of feeling sick.
Yeah.
So now I'll feel better. No. If it was that easy. And I think in society we look for that magic thing, that quick fix.
Yeah.
Right. We want it now.
Well, and the reality is, I think at some points too, it has, like, I thought I was at a low point when I came to see you guys originally. And then things got a lot worse.
And there is our resounding... Yeah. Andy, did you capture that? Yeah. Come to face it, we'll make stuff worse for you.
Oh, wait, I was supposed to record that?
Yeah, face it.
Maybe it's a good thing you weren't.
Face it, where problems go to get bigger.
Yeah. I say this, though, because I had much better skills. Yeah. I had much better system in place. And I was so grateful that I had met you guys and that I invested in the group and that I showed up every 2 weeks and that I made the relationships, because I had a much better foundation to deal with the additional problems.
And the problems needed to happen,
yeah,
right? They were things, some of them that you can share at your own volition here, you needed to confront and deal with, correct?
Oh, for sure. For sure.
You had to face them.
Oh, absolutely.
Great name for an organization, Face It.
And what I hear is when you come to Face It and you meet some people, you develop some skills and you have a community to support you versus doing this stuff on our own.
The thing that was crazy, Mark, is there were people that came out of the woodwork at Face It when I went through my divorce that I didn't even really know.
Right.
Like, I knew of them, And all of a sudden, they came to me
Yep.
and they said, hey, I've been through this. Do you want to go out for coffee? Hey, do you want to spend some more time talking about this? And that is super unique.
Yep.
There wasn't another place in my life where like family members or work or other relationships where people were just showing up. Face It has attracted a very unique set of individuals, and it's cultivated a culture where people want to reach out and help each other, and that's very unique.
Why do you think they wanted to reach out and help you?
Because they had been through it themselves. They knew what the problems were like. They knew what the pain was like, too.
How did they know what you were going through? Because you invested, right? You were vulnerable. You shared with them.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
yeah, fair.
And I think that's the big thing. Yeah, people are great. They're there to help. But with this, we don't see it.
Yeah.
Right? So the point is, if you don't invest in that, if you don't open up in group and share with them what's going on, you're not really going to get that benefit. And it's what we talk about so often is you have to be active in this, and you have to be vulnerable, and you have to invest and allow people to help you and accept that help. How was that to accept? Somebody helping you because you're pretty good at helping others and fixing things.
Well, at that time, I really needed the help. And I got to a point where I was looking for the help. I was so confused and spun around, like, what are all these variables? How do all these things work? And even knowing that I was going through the divorce, one of the first things that I did because of success with Face It was to look for other groups, support groups that were just totally focused on divorce. So I went to Divorce Care, and I spent a lot of time. I've spent years with that organization too, because I see the power of being able to open up and work with people. I still think that Face It is super unique, and there's something special that goes beyond an average support group, but I really highly recommend for people that have lost sight of that hope. One of the most important things you can do is you can look for community.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, Coach, like you have to put yourself out there. You can't just show up and hope that you fix everybody else's problems and then disappear into the background and not do your part to share.
And Mark asked you originally about, what was it like walking into Face It, that type of stuff? I mean, you alluded to the fact of meeting these guys and nervousness, and yeah, that is scary. They're scary. But how is it walking in your first, although you were in Bill's group, so you had met Bill, but how is it walking in that first Face It group with 8 other guys that you don't know?
Yeah, it was nerve-wracking, and I'll tell you, it wasn't even the first time. Like, I would say the first year, even though I went every 2 weeks, I dreaded going to group. I was terrified of going to group. But I'll tell you, I didn't evaluate my experience based on the nervousness and the anxiety leading up to group. What I did instead is I evaluated the value that I was getting out of group by how I felt by the time I was leaving group. And that was radically different for me. There's a guy in our group, Larry, who is a fantastic human being. And Larry was very open and honest with me from the get-go. He said, guys, I love being here, hearing the stories, knowing what's going on in your life, but it makes me nervous just to be here. And Larry had been going to the group longer. So that was one of those stories and one of those people that helped me, get comfortable and pull into that.
Good. What are you doing now to stay in this activeness?
Yeah, so I said a lot about Face It and the community. I think there's a lot of things there, whether it's continuing to show up for the groups. We went through Westerman Initiative. We could spend an entire hour just talking about going through kind of EMDR and what I like to call trauma therapy, digging through that sack. I do a ton of time journaling. So I usually have my journal with me. I'm writing things down. It's a way for me to challenge myself and think about stuff. But that's also a place where I bring the journal with me then once a week when I go to my therapist. So I go to my therapist once a week, and I think of my therapist is basically my physical trainer. Like, I need to be doing the reps out there. I got to be working out and doing the time, working on my issues, and then, hey, by the way, I'm doing this thing and it's feeling kind of odd. You got, oh yeah, maybe I Yeah, something else is going on there. So I think those are key things. Books are always super huge for me. There's a series of different books that I read. Like with my health issues, I read a 500-page book by Gabor Mate last year called The Myth of Normal. And it really
Fantastic author, by the way.
Yeah, and even if you don't have time to read the 500-page book, go on YouTube, watch a lecture.
Well, and he talks a lot about trauma and stress and, all the pain. And you talked about trauma work earlier. So, and there's a lot of trauma involved in having physical illness.
Right.
You're being traumatized.
Right. So incredibly insightful book. Another one, Nicole LaPera, How to Do the Work, is a great book because there's future self-journaling sections, I believe they're called, at the end of every chapter. And you can, again, you get out of it what you put in. So you show up and you test yourself, you write in the journal, and it's kind of self-reinforcing. So, I think those are really important things. I think...
Can I ask a question about the journal?
Yeah.
A lot of guys are afraid to journal. They don't know what to write. They don't know what it's for. They don't know what the purpose is. We know it doesn't really quite matter how you do it. What was it like, or what has it been like, to go back and be vulnerable with your therapist with some of your probably most private thoughts? What's the risk-reward been? Because so many guys don't want to go back and take a look and ask questions and share.
Yeah.
What's that like for you?
Yeah, it sounds like that Will Smith story over and over again. I'd heard at one point Will Smith having a piece on getting all fired up with his buddies at the bar to go jump out of an airplane, and then the next morning he woke up in terror, like, oh my goodness, this is going to be awful. Well, long story short, he jumps out of the airplane, and he kind of had a thesis statement, probably mess up the quote, but it was, on the other side of fear is your greatest joy, or
Absolutely.
something like that.
Yeah. That's how he said it, yeah.
And that's exactly what this is, whether it's showing up with your therapist or showing up in relationships, showing up to group. Even those Saturday morning breakfast speeches, the best ones are the most vulnerable ones. Mm-hmm. And even like when guys bring dark things out into the light of day, like they're just, there's no shortage of men that go up and appreciate it and say, hey man, I've never heard anybody else say that out in public. Right. So dig deep.
You kind of just touched on it. You said a little bit ago, you get what you get out of what you put in, and we use that phrase at Face It a lot too when we meet new guys. You know what? We used to say you get what you pay for, and since everything is free, we realized that wasn't a good strategy. But what you did say is that, you know what? You get out of this what you put into it. If you don't put in the effort, then you're probably not going to get much from it. And you're a great example of that, meaning you came in to Face It, you joined a group, you started coming to breakfast, you've been to retreats, you've done all kinds of stuff, you've been to a variety of classes. Actually, you were on a panel recently, we had a class on divorce, where you and two other gentlemen basically sat up there and talked about all your challenges through divorce, where you were talking to 20 other guys that are in that situation. Have you always been that way, that I'm going to throw myself completely into something? And if not, what makes it different now?
I think the stakes are very different. When I do this type of work, when I'm on the panel or preparing for something like this, it's very different. I just released a 27-minute YouTube video through my work, interviewing some other people earlier this week. That gives me a certain level of nervousness, but this is where I try not to get emotional. Like,
it's okay to get emotional.
It is. My shirt today on the backside says it's all right to cry.
I noticed that when I walked in.
I bought it for today.
Yeah.
Goodwill shopping yesterday.
Well, we men, I try not to get emotional. Good fucking luck. Like, we are emotional creatures. We all need to understand that being emotional is okay.
Yeah. But I was just trying to say that, like, the gravity of the work that you guys do and showing up, whether it's going up to the meditation retreat that you put together, Mark, or the divorce group that you were leading, Bill, like, all this stuff means so much more to me. And it's not that I don't care about my job. It's not that I don't care about other things. It's just this is personal.
There's something about helping other people. And that's at the divorce class, that's what you did. People came up to you afterwards and were talking to you and asking you questions. You made a difference in their life.
Can I ask a quick question? Do you think... I know. I'm so disruptive. Do you think in this process you've gone from being less of a black... I know you're a scientist and you're an incredibly intelligent person. Can lead to some real black and white binary thinking. Has your scope of how you see the world changed?
Oh, Yeah, tremendously. Yes, and I think that's a healthy way of saying it too. Is like thinking that so many things are black and white, and that they need to be, it's either right or it's wrong. I've met so many different people, so many different ways that people approach the world, and yes, it has really helped me diversify. One of the statements I said earlier, that I really over-indexed on being a doer, this has all helped kind of round me out, and it's challenged everything too. Not every guy in group is like me, and thank goodness they're not. So yeah, sometimes I find a great deal of comfort and empathy finding people that are like me, and I also feel really challenged sometimes when people are very different than me, and it's important to have both.
So, final question. Have you talk about helping people and doing these things. Have you been able to limit that, like to set some more boundaries to be able to take care of yourself also?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I want to answer that as realistically as possible. Like, I have a certain predisposition. And again, like that black and white thinking, that would have killed me here. And that perfectionist tendency, either I'm all the way there and I'm perfectly boundaried and I totally control it all, or I'm nothing, like that wouldn't get me anywhere. So like, instead of going from 0 to 100, let's say, my goal is to like, can I get to 1 better, this week or next month or whatever? And I'm slowly trending in a much better, healthier direction. And I'm not there.
Well, no, and I love that. I love that vulnerability. But I think that's, because when we try to go from here to here, we can't, and then we beat ourselves up and all that. But it's, it's that whole process of making small gains, because I think that's an area that is really tough for a lot of people. Somebody told me once, controlling is illusion. I think what he meant was boundaries is an illusion, because that's kind of the way I am. Because, so good for you to be able to do that, because that's an important piece, because you're putting yourself first, and that's the self-care piece. So.
Yeah, I think that's where people keep getting more hope too, just to frame it that way, is when you can see the incremental gains and you're okay with making incremental gains, then you can see the light at the end of the tunnel still. When you expect it to be everything and you're not there next Tuesday, then that makes you hopeless again.
Almost sounds like some people aren't patient. We're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back. Thank you.
At Brand Inc., we know your business's reputation rides on every detail, especially when it's on the road. Our commercial vehicle wraps combine eye-catching design, 3M-backed installation, and a seamless process built for busy teams. Whether it's one truck or an entire fleet, we help you turn heads, build trust, and grow your business. Your vehicles are always moving. Make sure your brand moves with them. Start your project at brandinc.com. That's Inc with a K, brandinc.com.
You're listening to the What's the Point podcast, where you are the point. And now your hosts, Mark Meyer, Bill Deckus, and Mark Wick.
Welcome back, everyone, for the final segment of another wonderful episode of What's the Point podcast. Shawn, thank you so much for your time today. Like the guy said, being open and vulnerable is so important. And you really are the biggest reason that we're even doing this again, this podcast. So thank you for that. Mark and I, whenever we meet new guys at Face It, over half of them now say they heard about us through a podcast. And with your pushing and those kind of comments, we said we've got to do this again. So that's really cool. I have a question that I always ask our guests here. So just imagine that my hope here is that someone is driving down the road right now listening to this podcast, and they can relate to some of the stuff you were talking about. Some of them made sense, maybe some not, but they're wondering, maybe how does this affect them? If you had the opportunity to give them one piece of advice, one statement, one something, what would that be? What would you say to that person?
Yeah. And I feel like I kind of spoiled this a little bit earlier, but I'm just going to say it again. Tell them what you're going to tell them it, and then tell them what you told them. Let's do this 3 times over. Like, find community, find the people that will listen to your story, find the people that will challenge you to be your best self. And there's an array of people in my life. There's family, coworkers, friends, therapists, and then there's my group at Face It. And I leave that one for the last because my group shares an incredibly deep and meaningful stories. People are opening up there and talking about complexities that I don't hear in my other relationships of life. And that then forces me to do the same. It's a two-way street. Like, because those people are being open and vulnerable with me, I personally feel like it's my duty to be open and vulnerable with them. And that means like, hey, I did something great. And it also means like, hey, I did something that was really dumb in the past 2 weeks. And I want you guys to know how I'm going to do this better in the future.
You touched on it a little bit. A year or so ago, one of your group mates spoke at breakfast, and I asked him, "What's the biggest surprise in the last 2 years since been at Face It?" And his answer was really, really intriguing. It said the depth of the relationships that came out of this. And I think a lot of it comes from being vulnerable, which means you can be, they can be, back and forth. I think the depth of the community, of the friendships and connections that come out of Face It is really the secret sauce. And I will say, I mean, it's been a few years, but you are probably one of my closest friends. Our relationship has gotten so much more than just me leading a group trying to guide you down this mental health journey. It's become way more than that. So I thank you for that. But any last thoughts, you guys, for Shawn, real quick?
You know, I just to echo what Bill said. Thank you for coming in and sharing your story and sharing the things you've learned. I honor and respect that a great deal. So thank you.
And thank you for speaking at that breakfast. And because of that, I get a chance to meet you, to talk to you, to get to know you a little bit better. And when we talk about inspiration, you certainly inspire me in those things. So thank you.
Nice. So the final piece of each episode is, what have we learned today? So how about you, Andy? What have you learned today?
Well, what I found interesting was how similar our life trajectories have actually been. So you had kids mid to late 30s. Me too. You had a lot of medical problems in that time. I also did. But what you do is not anymore, but you tried to, people please and try to make everything about what you could do for others. And for what I did for a long time was kind of the opposite. I just kind of coasted through life. And both of those are harmful in different ways, but they end up in the same place, which is not a good place. So I think the takeaway is, it really is finding that balance. You can't please everyone, but you have to please some people, or else you just end up kind of by yourself.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Great. What about you, Mr. Wick?
Well, a couple things. Who is that author, that book?
Gabor Mate.
Okay, and it sounds like Meyer read it, and I did not know he knew how to read. So
wow.
I learned that Mark knows how to read, so that was helpful.
It's a plus.
Yep. And
why are you so hateful?
I learned that I love that thing about the boundaries and the increments, because I don't think it's just boundaries. I think it's everything we do. That break it down, look at those, and remind ourselves of just moving forward. It doesn't have to be huge. It's continue to move forward. And there's going to be bad days. I still say I'm in such a better place, but I still have crappy days. But I know why. I mean, I know I'm going to get through them, and I know I don't have to hide it, put that mask on, all that type of stuff. But then to get back and just make those little gains. So thank you.
What about you, Mr. Meyer?
Are any of your bad days because you're mean, Wick?
The Art of Being a Horrible Person.
Okay. So anyway, I didn't read that book. No. What I learned and what I was reminded of, and I think back, Shawn, you invited me into your home at one point in time during the journey of your divorce, and the vulnerability that took to allow somebody in to kind of say, hey, can we just chat about, parenting and life and blah, blah, blah. At the root of vulnerability is our greatest, to quote Will Smith, fear, vulnerability, whatever the heck you want to call it. The minute we show people who we perceive we shouldn't be, and we realize they're just like us, it's so freeing. We're all a mess. Give me a frickin' break. There ain't a person out there who hasn't made bad choices, bad decisions, had bad things happen. Not you, Wick, I know, but besides you, I saw you flip your hand at me. We're going to have a staff meeting. I'm calling a staff meeting after the podcast. My point being that we fear our vulnerabilities. Mm-hmm. There isn't somebody out there who hasn't done the exact same dang thing. Get over it. And start talking about it, and then you get free. It's really kind of simple,
and
right?
And what happens when you face them? And what happens when you put them out there? I've never had anybody really, for the most part, say, I wish I wouldn't have done that.
No, I just am constantly reminded of how afraid we are to be vulnerable, which I get it, because we need to protect ourselves. Our body's protecting us, and we really have nothing to be afraid of.
We're all going to make the mistakes. That's the thing that was really hard for me. Like, I have so much shame. I had so much shame. Yeah. Oh, I didn't do well with my daughters in this one place, and I just bury myself in it. But then at some point, like, there's a realization that is the process.
Right.
That's how you know you care.
It's called learning, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. That's how you get better.
And back to your point, though, about the vulnerability. It's our body protecting ourselves. So, again, I want to stress we don't have to be vulnerable to everybody.
Oh no.
You know, and again, we know who we can. And face it, we can be vulnerable to the others there because they get it. And, you know, it's still protecting us, but it's okay to be vulnerable to some.
Well, and ironically, to me, as I was more vulnerable with some, now I don't give two shits who knows about what I've been through. Right? And I hear what you're saying, but it doesn't matter to me because
absolutely,
I don't feel in danger of the fact that I'm human the way I used to. So, how about you, Dill? Bill, learn anything? I almost called you
Dill?
Dill. Hey, we just found a new nickname. Dill was actually from To Kill a Mockingbird. That character Dill. I loved that.
Did you read that too?
Believe it or not, Wick, I know how to read.
More than 2 books. Wow.
Yes.
You got me beat.
The Andre Agassi story. I mean, you've got
a great
whole
story.
things. Anyway,
have you read that book?
Look, can we get back to me?
Of course, yeah.
Go ahead, Dill.
Sorry,
Goodness
Dill.
sakes.
Dill.
So what have I learned? I've learned that I'm not a very good friend because of all of our times together, Shawn, I don't remember ever discussing a learning disability that you talked about or mentioned earlier, which completely surprises me because you are probably one of the smartest men that have in my life. You can talk about anything. You have so many answers to stuff. I recently reached out and said, hey, we need a YouTube channel. You took some coded crap that I had and you turned it into a page. I mean, it's just, you can do so much. It's so amazing. And whatever the learning disabilities are, you've certainly overcome them enough to be able to function at a super high level. So it makes me wonder what I've done with my life. And maybe I have learning disabilities. Maybe I should look into that. Maybe that's something my parents skipped when I was younger. You made the comment earlier that you said the podcast made you comfortable enough to come in to face it. We've never talked about that. I know you've pushed it, and you are the main reason this is happening. But just to think about that, to think that maybe there are other guys that are coming in to face it because they heard the podcast and because they could relate to your story and Shawn's story and other stories that were told. That just makes this all more as important as we think it is. It's even more than we think it is. So thank you so much for all your time today. It has been wonderful to have you here and part of this. Your words of wisdom, I think, will go a long way. And remember, there is going to be someone that's going to listen to this at some point, and it will make a difference in their life. So good on you. So with that, everyone, we are done for today and done for this episode. Can't wait to see everyone soon. And thanks for listening to What's the Point Podcast.
You've been listening to What's the Point Podcast, where you are the point. It's real men telling real stories. From depression to anxiety. No doctors or professionals. Just real men talking about real issues. For more, visit the Face It Foundation's website at www.faceitfoundation.org to ask questions for future episodes. Send us an email at wtpointpodcast@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook at What's the Point Podcast and find us on Twitter at WTPointPodcast. Till next time, this is What's the Point Podcast. And remember, you are the point.